appreciate you joining the podcast, brother.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Most definitely. I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is working right well. Just give me 2 seconds here. Okay. All right. Good deal. All right, Mr. Steve. So, as we were talking earlier, we want to get to know Mr. Steve Riedel. For all the viewers here, if you want to go ahead and explain um, where you first started, Steve.
Uh, my parents loved Alaska when they spent the Warriors here in Anchorage and Fairbanks, and they came back when I was 3 in 1957, in November of 57. And so, I have memories before, but mostly they start in Anchorage, right down near the park strip. Just a half a block away from the ice skating rink there, and the choo-choo train. So I grew up there. I call it like a leave it to beaver existence. My dad had a regular job, you know. Um, my mom mostly stayed at home. She was a legal secretary, and any rate, so and then we moved to Fair. The earthquake happened. That was pretty intense. Part of my growing up. They call it the Great Quake. It was a 9.2 in Anchorage in March
Wow.
27, '64, and that shaped
Wow.
my upbringing quite a bit. And then in Fairbanks, there was the '67 flood that I went through. So a
Wow.
little disaster tuned. Yeah, and so anyway, we moved to Fairbanks like for 3 years in junior high, and then came back to Anchorage. I graduated high school, and I learned how to fly growing up. That was another kind of part of my life. My dad, my older sister, and my brother are all pilots, uh, and I'm a pilot. I learned how to fly when I was 12 years old,
Wow.
and I didn't fly that much. There wasn't a lot of money for flying, but it was just part of who I am. And I've off and on I've flown over the years, not too much. Raising 4 children, you can imagine airplanes weren't really on the list.
Right.
Uh, but I have one now. I just bought one about 9 months ago. So it's here in Homer where I am. But anyway, growing up, it was pretty, real regular, and just there was no like other than the earthquakes and the floods, there was no trauma and like drunkenness or
Right.
criminality like some kids go through. It was real calm, really. Uh, that gave lulled me into a false sense of security because the world's a tough place.
It is.
It,
It definitely is. Especially
it
nowadays,
is.
it's definitely changed just over in the last, I want to say 20, 25 years, just in that brief time, it's totally done a full 180. It really has.
Well, why don't you try just talking a little bit slower and see how the audio works?
Yeah, definitely. What I was saying is the last 20 to 25 years, uh, you know, it's changed dramatically from when you used to be able to
Yeah,
leave
I
your
agree.
doors unlocked to now you have to, almost sleep with a gun at night.
Well, I hear is like the economic. I was raised in a. I mean, we were the U.S. was a great hegemonic state, and a blue collar worker could have a middle class job and support a middle class lifestyle. And that's not really the case here in the U.S. anymore. It's tough out there. I had a career as a surveyor, land and construction surveyor, and I didn't make a very good surveyor, so I must confess. Uh, I make a better gold miner, I think, than a surveyor. I hope anyway. I still in the learning curve on gold mining. I didn't do a whole lot of it. 4 years is just a good start in the industry. The Palmerankis have, just Steve. He has 45 years in it. Sean was raised in it, so he's way ahead in the learning curve.
Yeah.
You got to love the newcomers. They spend a lot of money getting going, so it's a big learning curve. But as far as my profession and my natural inclination is to be was or is, but I should have known, growing up that I'm not really a bureaucrat or I needed a job that I could create and I could push boundaries and I could invent
Right.
and engineer and any boundary would have been okay. I like airplanes but I like buildings too. But I really thought from my upbringing that I was a bureaucrat. That I was naturally I should fit into the system and march along
Right.
and
Right.
my dad didn't march along. He was a unique bureaucrat where he had a bureaucratic job, but he was very creative and he pushed anything that was unusual. They could give to my dad because he could take it on. And a
Right.
bureaucrat never wants to do a new idea. That bureaucrats don't do new ideas. Bureaucrats are followers, but they
Right.
follow from the front. You know, they
Right.
they get
Right.
the good jobs and they know how to play the game and they say the right words, but that doesn't make the world. The world's made by the people that push the boundaries, the
Right.
creators. And
The
so
doers.
I kind of found out late in life I was one of those kind of people. There's plenty of us. Um, I would hope that anyone not get stuck in a bureaucratic job when their soul is the boundary
Reaching
pusher
out
and the
elsewhere. Yep.
creator and the
Yep.
so anyway, so mining kind of brings that out in you, because you're totally outgunned by nature. You're outgunned every step of the way in Nome, but there's people there that succeed. There's people there that have a lot of fun and adventure. And but man, it's steep in Nome. It's brutal place to be and to project yourself in mine. It's huge. That's why we mostly fail there.
Yeah.
Mostly. You know, the Palmerankis. My daughter is a success. She earned every bit of it with years of failure. You know,
And I bet that
Vern.
warms your heart with your daughter being
Oh,
successful, you know.
oh, tremendously, tremendously, because there's so much failure there. So
Yeah.
against all odds, uh, and Vern still, I think Vern, has a good operation, and I think he's going to start making money. But his learning curve, because Vern is so, like he's been the captain for years. That's his profession. Now he goes up there and he thinks he can, you know, transfer all that, like that huge captaincy. He's super tankers and big freighters, and he's a pilot and
Right.
he's at the top
What
of
he's
his
used
profession.
to. Yeah.
He's used to like making it happen. Then he goes to Nome. He got his ass kicked in Nome,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to
Yeah.
repeat the numbers. I'm not going to repeat the
Right.
numbers. It's
Right.
senseless. But Vern is smart and capable and all those other things that you need for success. Aggressive, whew,
Right.
awesomely aggressive. Just
Right.
he's got the right amount of push and
Right.
years of learning. It's not easy. It's hard. We make it look easier than it is, and we make it look hard. I
Right. Right. Well, I had a couple of good questions for you, if you don't mind here.
love it.
So I got a really good one for you here. What would you say was one of your most exciting experiences in Nome, Alaska?
Well, you mean recently or back when I was really mining actively and for 4 years I mined actively and then like Discovery stopped paying me and then I just came back like last year really or 2 years ago. So which era?
So let's take out the Nome, Alaska part, and let's say, what was one of your most exciting experiences living in Alaska in general throughout your life?
Oh my heavens. Oh, well, I got a top 10.
Well, let's hear them. Let's hear them.
I'm an old guy. Okay, so most exciting. Most okay, not okay. Um, there was a lot of excitement raising family. I mean, I have 4 children. Emily's the youngest, but you know, uh, whoa, tremendous. Oh, oh gosh, it's flooding. Well, I climbed McKinley. That was pretty exciting. So in '81, I climbed McKinley. That was exciting.
That's
And then
phenomenal.
meanwhile, yeah, yeah. Meanwhile, my girlfriend was pregnant with my twins. So that was
Wow.
exciting.
That is.
I planned the trip to McKinley, but I hadn't planned the twins, and they were born in November.
Right, right. That's it happens, but it ends up
Yeah,
being it ends up being one
great.
of the best things that happens to you, isn't it?
Well, all 4 of them were probably the 4 best things that happened to me.
Right, right, right.
So, well, and of course, I was in the second largest earthquake in recorded history.
That's
Second
crazy.
largest.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I remember reading a few different documents about that quite a few years back, and it absolutely blew my mind. The magnitude was
Yeah.
insane. Definitely
Um,
insane.
hard, hard. I just describe it in just a sentence. It was like hard to stand up for 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
Right, right, right.
Hard. The earth was, and in some places it was worse. I was down. I was pretty much on 11th Avenue in Anchorage, and real stable soil, and our house was fine. Let's see. I got to float the 40-mile river in a canoe. That was pretty awesome. That's gold country too. Um,
Wow.
I I've done some pretty like bonehead things flying small airplanes that was exciting and but you know that's the kind of excitement that I try and not have. But these
Right,
things
right.
happen as a young pilot and I'm pretty an experimental kind of guy and it's like, oh, can I do this with this airplane? And then you almost die.
Right.
I shouldn't have done that. And,
I I think
or like,
uh I think a lot of us go through that, especially in the prospecting and mining community. We always find that stream or that creek or that one spot that we absolutely want to dig in, and we end up regretting it most of the time. If the water's too high,
yeah,
so I totally get it. It's the ideology,
yeah.
I guess, of well, what will happen if I try it, right? So
Well, you hit on something that's very prevalent in the mining community that I've met in Nome, and the few miners I've met actually locally, and pretty much to a person, personality that draws you to gold is a pretty strong personality. It's
right.
maybe a little. aggressive and maybe willing to take chances. Maybe not reckless, because that's depending individual. But you got people that are strong, and mining is like refiner's fire. It'll make a
Right.
man, or it'll make a person out of you. And because it's hard, and you
Extremely
fail
hard. Yeah.
instantly. Yeah, you fail instantly if you don't put your best game up. You're failing
Right.
right away. If you put your best game up, and you're smart, and you took good advice, and
Yeah.
you learn, your chances of failure is about 50%. So the best
Right.
of the
Right.
best, they get weeded out, and it's down to the gnarliest and the most aggressive, or at least smart aggressive, not just not just bully aggressive, but you
Right.
got to
Right.
be
Hardened.
smart. You got to know
Right.
when to hit. You got to know when to dance. Get gold
Right.
mining, or you're going to try too hard and burn out.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so
Well, and
it's
that's
tough.
the thing, and that's the thing too. I was talking with a good buddy of mine, and he said mining's a lot like gambling. You never know what you're going to get. With mining. So it's, and I think all of us have that sort of aspect to us that well, let's go ahead and try and see what happens, so to speak. And in reality, of the majority of the time, you fail, but there is that certain percentage that do make it, such as
Right.
your
Yeah.
daughter's, I'd imagine, is doing phenomenal,
Yeah.
and like you said, it's all about the smarts. You have to have smarts. You have to have the knowledge to really understand what you're doing from top to bottom. The
Yeah.
budget, literally everything from top to bottom in order to go into an operation. Headstrong. Mentally, physically. Financially. So yeah, it's a tough gamble. That's for sure. Definitely a tough gamble.
Yeah. 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 And Vernon, when he was in there in 2012, and I was working for him, and his savior was Elaine, because you had all the Vernon things, but where Vernon misses things is where Elaine was picking up. She was really well organized. Vern's not. She was patient. Vern isn't. She was a good planner.
Right.
Vern isn't. He's
Right.
got a lot going, but he needed Elaine, and then she went off and having her own life, and not helping him anymore. And I don't know how
Right.
he's doing as far as like keeping the paperwork, a look on the paperwork, and what she did, the planning and the organization that Elaine had. She always had the whiteboard going, and
Oh
and
yeah.
all of these things to do, and would really, really helped him out, and was just really easy to work with. And
Right.
unlike Vern, who is, you just got to dance around him, because any minute he could turn into a raging monster. You
Well,
but
that's what
it's okay.
that's right, and that's with Vern that I've noticed. Basically on the sideline, I guess you could say. He's like you said, he's had that type of mentality the majority of his life, and so I'm sure it's probably extremely hard for him
Yeah.
to go from being that type of person for all of your life to, okay, now I have to actually understand what this other person is talking about,
Yeah.
and what their aspect is, so
Yeah.
you
Totally.
know and, and that's the
Right.
thing.
Yeah. Totally different ballgame.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so I think,
It is.
if
Totally
he
different
if
ballgame.
he right, and I think if he continues to stay in the game, and continue to do what he does, I'd give him 4 or 5 more years to really figure it out. It might take less, it might take longer, but
Yeah.
it's yeah. When you're used to that type of personality your whole life, it's tough to break the chains on that. And I wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. I'm glad he's in it. I really am. It's great to have him up there, and have me knowing him for so long and everything. And
Yeah, most definitely. No,
So
I imagine, you've been in it for, you said 4 years now. I'm assuming you're loving it. You're enjoying it. I know you have your tough bouts, this day or that day, but in all aspects, when you go home and lay your head to rest, you genuinely enjoy it. You enjoy learning. It's a learning curve, but you enjoy it,
well,
right?
absolutely. And a lot of gold mining is just especially the offshore dredging. Once you got your wetsuit on and you're down there and everything's working, it's not hard. I mean, it's not like so physically demanding. You can do it for six
Right.
hours and not wear yourself out.
Right.
But there's no one bothering you, and it's you and the gold, and it's
Peaceful.
exciting because you're hunting, and
Peaceful.
when you're on the gold, of course, it's gold. Great. And you're
Right.
just down there alone, and there's no one, nothing, no machinery. It's just you and that hose, and that's so it's so peaceful, and it's so different from what you see like on the television, where there's
Right.
all the drama and the
Right. Right.
breakdowns
Right.
and the people. When you're down there,
Bliss.
it's serenity,
Pure
and it
bliss.
brings you gold.
Right.
It's awfully nice. I don't do it
Right.
often enough. I don't.
Right. Well, I have a few more questions for you. This one's going to be a fun one, and I personally made this. I spent a little time on this one.
All
If you
right.
could, if you can turn back the time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
If I could go where?
If you could turn back the time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you
Oh,
tell
oh.
yourself?
What did I tell myself? 18.
You there, Steve? I think we're having some troubles here with connectivity.
Oh, there you go.
There we
Okay,
go.
yeah, I got a phone. Yeah, just one thing, just one sentence, or do I get a whole paragraph?
You get as much. Hey, this episode is
Yeah.
about you,
Oh,
brother. So we want to
yeah.
hear.
Okay.
We want to hear more than a
So
paragraph.
16. Um, you know, uh, the first thing I think of is advice on sex, because that's what I was so bad at for so many years. And I'd give sex advice. I'd say, look, and I'm not going to get into the details because you don't need,
Right.
it doesn't matter. There's a
Right.
certain way that you do that. And it's like, it's not like TV, and it's not like the movies. Women are not like
Right.
the movies, I would say to myself. I would say,
Right.
you don't take any of your sex advice or what happens in a movie. That's the advice
Right.
I give is sex advice. Don't watch movies for sex advice. Get
Right.
real, you know, read a real book on the real thing, and it'll be really
Right.
boring, and it'll be tedious, but
Right.
that's where it's at.
Oh
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
let's see. Uh, yeah, and I might throw in something about like, hey, keep a savings account, and keep, put money into it every month. I'd
Right.
add that,
Right.
good money advice. I don't
Right.
know what
Right.
else.
Right.
I don't know what else I'd say. You know, there's
No,
lots
most
to say to
definitely.
an 8.
Right. No, there is. I think there's quite a bit, if I could turn back time and talk to my 18-year-old self, I definitely would have opened up a savings account. That's probably first and
Yeah.
foremost. And the second thing I'd have to say was let's see here. Man, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot you could say. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
How about
see.
this? No, go ahead. Next question.
Oh, you're good. Go for it. Let me hear it. Let me hear it, Steve.
Well, I
I
was
know you
just
had
saying,
something good.
well, something I learned recently, and it's like through, documentaries, and then reading things, and then, everyone points to the same the Koch brothers were billionaires, in 1970. They had made the billion mark, which is,
Wow.
in 70 money, that's like I don't know, 10 billion or 60.
Yeah, that's
They were
insane. Yeah.
insane amount of money. They got
Oh yeah.
together with they got together with seven other billionaires and wrote the manifesto for the destruction of the middle class in the U.S. That's what the Koch
Oh
brothers did.
wow.
They set out in 1970 to destroy the middle class in America, and I'm not sure why. Um, it seems to me on the surface a good idea because millions of consumers just driving around and then packaging and every dumps and highways and everything destroys the planet. So let's get rid of them. They consume too much.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right. Right.
uh, on the surface, that seems to be like a real environmental thing to do is get rid of all the middle class and then but that's another thing that I might mention to my 18-year-old self is the whole giant hegemonic state that we've been enjoying since 1945 is over.
Right. Right. Right.
Get down and get dirty because it's going to get tough and it's just going to get tougher. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, again, it was like, 12 bucks an hour in 1968 was good wages. 12.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. It was management wages.
Right. Right.
12 an
Right.
hour.
It was livable where you were able to,
Oh,
purchase a
yeah.
car, have a homestead, have a
Yeah.
piece of land, and oh yeah.
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 So, I mean, that is like it is very hard to get that equivalent a job in the US. You just got to scramble and hustle. And it's, um, uh, there's
It's
other things, uh,
it's definitely
but I,
been tough. It's definitely
yeah,
been tougher than it's ever been, even before all the politics and all that good stuff, aside from all
yeah,
that, just getting a job in general and working your way up, it takes many, many years. And,
uh-huh,
a lot of middle class folks nowadays more than ever, runs basically the economy, when it gets to transportation of freight, when it gets to and a lot of that is overlooked, so nowadays compared to back then, I could definitely say, it's not like it once was, the famous saying, it's not like it once was, and it's just a shame, and that ties into the mining community as well, back then you used to be able to get permits and this, that, and the other, and go out with a buddy and enjoy digging and finding gold and going home with that little bit of gold and being happy about it, and now it's, in certain states, it's jumping through hoops, going up and
yeah,
down, left and right, trying to
right.
just get a permit. And, it's tougher than ever. And, I was just speaking with Shannon from the American Mining Rights Association, and he was telling me the same thing. It's getting tougher and tougher every single
Uh,
year for people to get out there and enjoy nature, to enjoy, creeks
yeah,
and streams and rivers and
yeah.
mountains, and it's all a big money grab these days, and it's just a sad thing. It
Well,
really, really is a sad thing these days.
is it? Well, hold it now. How is it? Is it a money grab or like a power? Or what do you think it is? A power grab to make it hard to go out and recreational mine?
So Well, so yeah, to be honest here, so it's a little bit of both, right? Because, if you look at it this way, the power grab essentially is to make as less land as possible accessible
Right. Yeah.
for folks to go out and recreational prospecting and mining, right? And
Right.
then the money aspect of it is just this, they went from, let's say, ballpark, $30 for a permit up to, $70 for a permit, and then,
Okay.
it's just multiple things. The equipment, all the
Right.
prices for equipment goes up. And I mean, anybody could argue and say, well, the economy is growing, or the economy is doing this, which is allowing influx of the prices and so on and so forth. But and aside from all
Huh.
of that, just in the
Right.
just in the mining and prospecting portion is where I'm getting at, where it's a lot more harder to do what you used to be able to do for a very cheap and
Right.
reasonable
Yeah.
price. It's
Where do
tough.
you live?
It's I live here in Washington State, and
Okay.
aside from a few other states, Washington is very stringent on what you can do as far as having any type of mining operations. We have some pretty ridiculous regulations here in Washington. So typically, I go up near the Canadian border, and I go out there and enjoy myself. I find good gold, stuff like that. But like I said, every single year here in Washington State, it gets worse and worse and worse. So
Yeah.
it's tiring to fight it every single year. It's very tiring
Yeah.
to fight it every single year.
Oh,
It pushes recreational
yeah.
mining and prospecting. It pushes it down lower and lower and lower to where there's less people wanting to do it because of the
Yeah.
loopholes,
Sure.
because of the
Yeah.
money grab, and it's just a
Sure.
pain. It really is. But I think honestly, now more than ever, you're seeing a lot of new miners, you're seeing a lot of new dredgers, a lot of prospectors, you're seeing a lot of new guys going out there and actually trying it because they're sick of the 9 to 5. They, like you said
Yeah.
earlier, they have that deep desire inside of them to go outside the boundaries, and you see that more than ever.
Sure. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just boils down to teaming up with each other. Get that hysteria
Well,
out and team up with each
yeah.
other, and be a dominant force, to legislation, and a dominant force to Congress. And once we're able to do that as miners and prospectors, then laws will start changing. Yes, it might take more than a year. Yes, it may take more than 5 years, but it's a good start.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
that's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah. Well, it's over the years, we've had um, different administrations, different attitudes, and now I think we've got a real pro mining governor. We've got a pro mining, very reasonable Corps of Engineers, and so I think it's positive here in Alaska. I'm glad it is, because there's times it hasn't.
Right.
There's been a lot of, but as far as like the damage we do to the environment offshore Nome is can't be measured. It's so small.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but mining on land, um, there's the efforts, the successful gold mines that are land-based gold mines. 25 years later, you can't tell they were there. They're
Right.
reclaimed. So the environment is
Reclamated.
there. I mean, it's working. It works. The
Right.
gold mining in Alaska works, and there's success. It's just, uh, yeah, the environment and that kind of thing is not really the issue. And then the permitting and the state attitude is not an issue here. It's just smooth. So we're happy for that.
That's awesome. That's it's one of the last states that you don't hear a lot of horrible rules and regulations come up each and every year. Just recently here in Washington, we were banned from using any type of motorized equipment, and it absolutely blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind.
Motor, yeah.
Well,
So you
well,
you you get a wind generator, and then you supply the electricity to your pump with the wind generator. Would that
right,
work? Yeah.
right. So,
How would that work?
so
What?
yeah,
No,
so
no motor
so
was used there.
right. So, a buddy of mine, good buddy of mine, he just got into um, fabricating prospecting equipment, right? and he came up with a genius way. I don't know if he wants me to mention it, but he came up with a genius way to go around that, right? Well, little to say. I'm not sure what's exactly happening with going around the mechanical aspect of it, but or not mechanical motor aspect of it, but I think
Motor, yeah.
I think Washington State's going to catch on, and that's the sad thing, and it's going to get to the point where we're just hands and pans. That's and it's
No, no, it
it's
can't.
tough.
That can't be. That's yeah. I know. That's this. It's ridiculous. The state exercises that power in that way because you
Right.
know what? You either grow it or mine it. There's no other way. We can't fabricate our reality out of air that we suck out of the air. It just doesn't work. It would be nice. I wish I
Right.
had one of those
Right.
machines, but I'd rather have warp drive. I know that in my character on TV, I talk about like aliens and warp drive and that sort of thing. And I all jokes aside, I strongly believe that not only do aliens or UFO that sort of thing exists, and they have warp drive technologies that humans can should
Right.
do
Right.
make
Right.
invent
Oh yeah.
you know
Right. Right.
and yeah, and it's available. The warp drive is available. It's out there. It's real. It's just as real as steam was 100,000 years ago.
Right.
The physics hasn't changed. 100,000 years ago, they could have made a steam engine, but no one got together and decided to do it.
Right.
And if they
Right.
would have, if someone in some large village somewhere would have said, "By God, I think we should invent the steam engine," and they did it, they would have dominated the culture. They would have dominated the planet, those
Oh
people.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think humans, the US should put a few hundred billion in warp drive ideas and technologies and make it happen.
Right.
Make it happen. We know there's aliens. We know there's spacecraft. There's video at this very moment on Facebook, F-18 gun camera video. It's like one of 1,000 pieces of evidence that you can get for as far as like existence of UFOs, and then the other. I mean, it just goes on and on. But that
Oh
aside,
yeah. Yeah.
that's a huge power struggle, because as soon as you and I have, it's over for the rich.
Oh
It's
yeah.
over
Yeah.
for the rich.
Yeah.
There are
Oh
no
yeah.
more rich.
Oh yeah.
There's no more rich people.
Right.
I have warp
No.
drive. I have infinite amounts of money. I don't need it.
Oh, period. Period. Yep. I wholeheartedly agree. Well, Steve, let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break. I'm gonna go grab me a cup of water. Maybe grab yourself a cup of water, and then I got a little bit more good questions to ask you, if you don't mind. All right. Hopefully that was a long enough break, brother.
Oh boy.
I kind of wanted to make it a 10-minute break for all the podcasts, but figured 5 minutes was good enough. Get up, take a bathroom break, come back.
Right.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump on the topic. Back into mining here.
Yeah.
So let's see here. So the first question is this: when you brought your first bit of gold home, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on the first gold you brought home?
Whoa. I had a very unusual first experience, actual gold mining. I had 2 lessons with Zeke and Emily. Zeke is no teacher, but never mind that. Okay. So like the next day, it was like my turn, and so I went down there, and I found a 50 square foot spot where the machines had missed the backhoes. They would come down. They had missed this spot. It was rich with gold.
Wow.
It, I can't. I was so blown away at how much gold was coming in. I set the hose up, and I went up to Z, and I said, "Should I get all this gold?" Now, what I meant was like, did he want to turn, you know? And he thought I meant like, should I leave some of it down there? So he was like, no, take it all. Go. Okay,
That's awesome.
so it was the check that was written for me was $3,600. Okay, that was splitting it with Zeke, half and half. So I picked up with my first try. It was beginner's luck, which is horrible for me. I don't do beginner's luck. If I have a hard time the first time I do something, then the long term I do better. But this was bad luck for me, bad mojo. But I got a big check, and I felt pretty good about it. You know,
That's
it's
awesome.
awesome.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I remember when I found my first piece of gold. I literally was jumping for joy for probably about
Yeah.
a good
Oh,
week. A
it's
good
magic.
week.
Yeah, magic stuff.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And
Oh, well, it's magic.
when they say you got gold fever, that's it's a real
Yeah.
thing. It definitely is a real thing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So is gold something you've always had a passionate about, or is that something that that you came across and said, you know what, I want to try that out?
Well, for most of my life, no particular interest in gold. Um, I panned successfully, very tiny amounts. When I was a kid, we were camping or something like that. I don't remember that, but it was never important to me. The reason I went to Nome upon Zeke's invitation was I'd worked for FedEx, and I just hurt one shoulder for 3 years.
Wow.
It was damaged in one failure operation, and then he blew me off for a year, and then I had another doctor. So I was going bankrupt,
Oh,
and
wow.
I could not find a job. I was 5, 6 hours a day for months looking for work, and it wasn't like a Hail Mary, I'm going to get rich getting gold. It was things aren't working out for me, and I just want to do something different. And oh, sure, I'm going bankrupt, but I'm gonna just do something different.
Right.
That's what I did. We went up there, and I was a non-TV gold liner for 2 weeks. That's it. Yeah, but I
Wow.
was one.
That's awesome. No, that is awesome. So I had a couple of questions from the viewers here. Let me
Yeah.
see where it was. Give me a sec here. Let me see. So we got a couple of comments here. I'm going to go ahead and say, so we got one person that said, I had met Emily at the GPAA show in Portland 2 years ago now. Let's see here. What's the deepest you've dove during gold mining?
Okay. It's a vivid memory. I'm not sure. It was in the rec area, and we went out to 33 feet, 1 atmosphere.
Wow.
And I remember we only were out there one time, but the first time I went to 33 feet, after spending so much time, it's about 17 or 7. 33 was scary, dark. That's all I remember of it. It's just one day diving. So that's the answer to
Wow.
that one. Yeah,
Wow.
it was something.
Crazy.
It's not unsafe, but you
Yeah.
start have to focusing on the time down because you're 1 atmosphere down, and then you get
Yeah,
into some
that's
rules and and so we don't care that much.
right, right. So the next question is, how deep were you guys typically dredging? How far down? How
Uh-huh.
deep was the water that you guys were dredging typically?
Uh, Depends on where you are. These are ancient beaches, so they're at a specific depth. So you have one around 7, and then at 17, and then I'm not 20, 25, maybe 28, 23.
Wow.
I don't know, but that's the typical beaches, ancient beaches that you mine.
Wow. That's insane. Well, I have to give you props on doing that. I mean, that for your first time going down, I'd imagine it was pretty exciting, but scary at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. But I gotta say that open water, open water mining is quite safe. Very exciting, but it's far more exciting than it is dangerous.
Right.
Because there's a lot going on. But
Right.
you just separate everything out, but how dangerous it is. If you follow certain practices, you're covered.
Right.
You're not going to. Now, there is always the black swan, the crazy, and I could tell some of those kind of stories that you couldn't have imagined the danger down there, and it happened to a diver.
Right.
But those are one in a million, a billion. Mostly, what gets you in trouble there is the lack of discipline with the umbilical cord, and then
Wow.
you run out of air, and then your umbilical cord's wrapped around things. You didn't pay attention. You're in trouble. Then you got to
Wow.
jump and go to the surface. Got to take everything off. Yeah,
Wow.
the weight belt and
That's
everything.
that sounds
Mask,
pretty
everything goes.
yeah, that sounds pretty terrifying to say the least. That's
Yeah, it's not that bad. Just pay attention.
pay attention. Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Well, we got one last question for you. One last question for the end of the podcast here. Is there any advice you could give for anyone wanting to move to Alaska?
Oh, well, Alaska's a big place. Where would you like to move to? No, different.
That is
Anchorage,
right.
just like the rest of the U.S., except
Right.
for colder and
Right.
more strange people. I mean, nice strange people. Strange in a nice way.
Right.
So, okay. Generally, though,
Yeah.
uh, always live outdoors. In the wintertime, get outside every day for at least an hour. Okay, that's the way you live the winters in Alaska, staying outside. In the summer, Alaska's like opens up. It's light all the time. Don't let that energy get to it. You know, slower in the summer. It's okay. You got to sleep. So watch yourself. We all get excited in the summer and overwork ourselves.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, Steve, I appreciate you being on the podcast. Like I said, hopefully I can get you to join the Prospecting Buddy group. That way you can get to know more about us. We'd love to have you on for another podcast. It's always great seeing your face. I mean, I enjoy your company. You're a very unique individual that is very good at heart, and
thank you.
that's why I reached out to you, because I really wanted to be able to get to know more about you personally on a human to human level, and
Yeah.
that's I think that's what the world needs more of. Is being able to connect with each other on a human to human level and create a
Right.
friendship that'll last a lifetime.
Well, thank you.
So I
Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
you. Definitely. I appreciate you, Steve. And hopefully we can have another podcast here soon with you
Oh,
joining us.
well, I have a topic for it already. I just want to tell your audience and you,
Yeah.
I plan on doing some major prospecting in the Nome area with my airplane.
Nice.
The area that I want to explore is about 110 miles. It's in the Granite Mountains, and
Wow.
there's an airstrip close by. And I will be in full prospect mode. And I tell you what, I'm a junior prospector. So maybe I could learn from your people what the hell I'm doing. I'll be there
Definitely.
for the lesson.
Definitely. No, we got a lot of great guys.
Yeah,
We've spanned out in a lot of different states. We got a lot of guys back east. So yeah, that would be awesome. That would be really
that would be.
awesome. So, all right, Steve, well, you have yourself a wonderful evening. And like I said, thank you again for being on the podcast.